Nothing sucks more than getting that no from that client that won't buy from you, right? But instead of feeling bad, what if you did this to make them reconsider? And while you watch me draw this today, I'm gonna let you in on the strategies, tips, and tactics I've used in order to build a successful art business so that you can too. So take some notes and start doing this today. Now to begin, let's tackle a really big issue that I know you're currently wrestling with, because whenever somebody says no to you, you're definitely going to feel like there's something wrong. You're going to start to question yourself. You're going to start to question your art. You're going to question whether or not your mom and dad were right and you should have gone into finance instead, right? And I just want to put you at ease, let you know this, friend. It's not your problem that they say no. It's not because you're not worth it. A lot of times we tend to wrap up our self-esteem, we wrap up our self-worth into what other people think, and especially when we have a business or we're trying to start one, we think that our value is connected to what other people's value perception is, but that's not right. So instead, I want to let you know it's not your problem, it's their problem. It's their problem if they can't afford you. It's their problem if they are not willing to work with you. And I see so many artists that are wanting to freelance, wanting to start that art business, but they're totally dejected. But I just want to put things into perspective for you, friend, here, is that if you are currently not even working with anybody and you get a no, your life has literally never changed at all. So you literally didn't lose anything. You haven't gained anything. So therefore, you really have nothing to lament at all. But instead, what I do want to let you know is how you can go through this and how you can better attract and get clients through doing these very simple things through a conversation with them. So if you're out here still trying to use inefficient practices like maybe commission sheets, or you have robotic like Google form inquiries, but I'm going to encourage you as far as why, as we go throughout this video, that is not going to work, and that might actually be why you're getting your no. Because instead, friend, I want you all to start to think about how you can do this the next time that you get the no. Now, obviously, if you've actually gone through the steps as I've outlined in my other videos for like how to actually converse with a client, what kind of questions to ask, then you're eventually gonna throw out that price tag at the end. And I just wanna focus you into that, y'all. That should always happen at the end of a conversation, not after one or two questions into it, because you don't know enough for it. But once you throw that out, and you might get that no, you might get told it's too expensive, okay? One of the things that I really want you to really lock into is the fact that they might have just said no to that one option. So instead of you just giving up and saying, well, okay, I guess if you think so later, I'll be here for you. Instead of feeling dejected about it, represent them with other options for it. So what I'm gonna suggest to you now is go ahead and edit the scope of it. Like, let's just say, for example, that somebody wanted to have a full illustrated work, like full illustrated background, full illustrated character, full bodied right there. And then you gave them your price and you got the no, that's too expensive, not within my budget. Okay, cool. Well, what if we take out the background? What if we just do a simple background? Okay, well, what if we make that a half body character, but still with the background? Okay, what if we make that a half body character with no background? One of the things that I'm gonna urge you to start to do is, instead of you just giving up right after you get that first no, work with them to try and see what you can get out of them, because chances are that if that client is actually taking the steps to talk to you about it, they're pretty invested and they probably like you. And if they're gonna start to go through this process of you trying to negotiate what the scope of it is way more likely that you're gonna get a yes once you come to an agreeable version of that. And of course, then you can also negotiate what your price tag will be, because if there's less work, then there's also a slightly smaller price tag and you might be able to get them down from there. This is one of the absolute easiest things to do in the world, and you can literally apply this in any situation. Does not matter if you're doing 2D art, if you're doing animation, if you're doing 3D modeling, you can do all of this, my friend, okay? So one of the things I would definitely encourage you to start to do is start to take a look at the entirety of the scope of that project and just ask them, okay, how can we continue to work together, but let's try this other version of it. Now, one of the things I started to notice when I was building my business is that it seemed like the higher price tags I got, the more people were weary about paying me up front. When you really sit down and you think about this, have you ever considered that there is some stranger somewhere on this planet that's just willing to just like wire you hundreds of dollars hypothetically, and that's just supposed to be okay and normal? Well, I kind of get that from the client perspective. And one of the things that you might want to consider is how you can give them an easier payment structure just to soften the blow. Because sometimes what an art client is going to hear is that, oh, I don't have all of that right now, but they might have it over a little bit of time. So here's what I'm going to offer you. First and foremost, the number one thing that you should always go for 100% of the time is always going to be 100% full upfront payment. Think about it like this, right? Between you and the art client, who has more investment into this entire project? Obviously you do. You have to put in the time. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the entirety of the art process. What do they have to do? They just get to sit back, live their life, play video games, eat junk food, and sleep. But you don't get that, right? So that's why I recommend that you always get full upfront payment, and then you don't have to stress through the entirety of the project hoping that you maybe get something or that they feel like paying you. But let's say that you can't get that. What should you do next? Can they do 50-50 payments? And here's what I'm gonna recommend for you. Normally when people hear this, what they're gonna hear, I'm gonna do a sketch 50%, and then I'm gonna get the 50% when they're done. Don't do that. I'm gonna tell you why. Because if you actually go through that process, basically what you're doing is you're just giving out free labor and then hoping that they actually pay. And that sucks because you're working under stress and you don't need that crap, do you? So the way I would recommend 50-50 is you should always do it 50% right up front, make them prove that they're actually a serious buyer, and then 50% upon completion of a sketch. Another way that you could do it is, especially for those of you that have multi-$100 price tags, is I'll even do installment payments. So just as an example, I had one client once where my scope was $750 for multi-character artwork. And so basically what I did was I gave him my price tag. He said no. I gave him my 50%. He also said no to that. And then he asked, okay, well, can I pay you monthly? And I paused for a second. I was like, okay, I can do that. So basically what he did was he paid me once a month for 4 months. That was fine with me. But if you're gonna do installments, here's what I'm gonna advise you on. You have to set yourself to a strict period of work and not exceed it. So for me, over the course of 4 months, I'm gonna tell you, I worked on that artwork 1 week out of the entire month, each month. And I made that my clear rule because I didn't want to get screwed. And I promised myself, because I've been burned in the past by something similar like this, where I would never go ahead of schedule and expectations unless I was getting paid to do so. So the next time you hear no, just understand that it might just be that they're not comfortable with the payment structure. And if you can work with them on that, then you can more easily get a yes from that. How's that sound? Now let me tell you a real powerhouse move that a lot of people don't do and why a lot of artists leave a lot of money on the table. And I started to do this in the last few years, change the game forever. So generally, if you talk to somebody here and they say, no, I don't have it, but I'll have it in 2 weeks. Or no, I don't have it right now, but I'll have it next month. Or they'll be like, yes, I definitely want to do it, but hey, I just got to collect the money, right? In this circumstance, then what do you typically say? You'll say something effective like, okay, talk to you later. Looking forward to working with you, buddy. But that's the worst thing that you can do. So instead, what you should definitely do is next time you get that no because they have to wait for it, just hit them with this. Hey, listen, I'd really love to get you on my schedule. I really want to work with you. Can you put down a deposit? And so this has been, I would say, one of the most game-changing practices I've adopted in the last few years. I've never heard anybody talk about this, so I'm just slamming you all with this lovely information that's definitely gonna help and transform your business. But if someone says that they have to wait a little bit, hit them with a deposit request. So just ask for like 25% of the work and just think about that. That's not a lot, okay? So for example here, if somebody is willing to pay you $100, but they just need to get the money together, okay, make them put their money where their mouth is. Can they put down 25 bucks today? Okay. Can they put down 50 bucks today? 50% of it? That would work great too. Anywhere between that neighborhood is great. If they're gonna pay $200, hey, can you put down 50 bucks? If they're gonna pay $500, hey, can you just put down 125 bucks today? And I'll definitely secure you a spot on my commission schedule. That is the best way that you can do it, because what you're allowing them to do now is just ease into working with you instead of just boom, outright committing to it. Now you've kind of got them in a good place where they're not gonna look around, they're not gonna go ahead and try and find other artists, because you're giving them an option, in which case it makes them feel secure that they have found somebody who is reputable and respectable and that they wanna work with. So my friend, don't let them wander away, try and find other artists, try and find another platform, try and find somebody that can't do it as well as you or can do it cheaper than you, that's worse, right? Then have them commit to you with a small and simple deposit. How's that sound? I promise you, this will be game changing. All right, so now to revisit a slightly earlier point here, when you eventually get that no, you're going to probably start to think that your pricing might be the problem. People around you might even say like, oh, well, your pricing is too high, nobody will pay that, and people don't pay that, or the economy's bad, or all this stuff. And y'all, I just wanna let you know, that you definitely need to stand firm on your pricing. If you are immediately going to the knee-jerk reaction of like, gotta cut my pricing, have to reduce everything, that is never going to serve you, okay? And obviously, I want you to be able to build a successful and sustainable art business. However, though, here's the bigger thing. The most important element that you have to have in order to make it isn't amazing talent, isn't amazing art, isn't top tier God level abilities. It's the ability to trust yourself. And listen, when you stand firm on your price, you're going to allow and open the door to a lot of things that I'm going to talk to you about today to actually come true and to happen for you. What this all wraps into is self-respect, okay? And it's a matter of, people don't talk about this much, but literally your price tag is a barometer for your self-respect for yourself, how much you do or don't. And this is why you really should not think that just because one person or a few people aren't buying your artwork, that nobody ever will. Or don't get wrapped up into the poverty mindset of like, oh, well, the economy's bad or the world's in a bad state, there's a war over here, and so that's why it's affecting this. Or because, hey, are you in a country that doesn't have as much value of dollar as other places do? Okay, well, let me just put you at ease, friend. There's literally money oozing from every corner of the world. And you don't need to worry about that, okay? There is a global market. I want you to be a part of it. I want you to enter that. I want you to enter it strong because I know you can do it too, because I've advised people just like you on how to do it, and they've done it, and I know you can do it too. But one of the most important reasons why I think that you should definitely stand firm on your pricing is because if you don't, you will never build the trust in yourself that you're actually able to get this, that you're actually able to make it, that you're actually able to build and grow a sustainable art business from it, because you're constantly going to be giving yourself a reason to doubt yourself, and that will be why you will eventually give this up and fall into despair. Have you ever considered this? Because I've seen it way too many times, and I definitely don't want that to be your circumstance, friend. Now, once you start to enter a pretty respectable price bracket, this is when typically you're gonna start to charge somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $500. I would basically just equate that to it, okay? This is when you can start to implement this. But I wanna really firmly structure it only to that price bracket, because if you have less than $100, don't do this. Do the other things I'm suggesting and I'm about to suggest for you as well. Go ahead and execute what I call the 25% rule. So oftentimes when you don't have work, when you don't have clients, when you've got a dry spell, okay, and you approach somebody and you get a no from them, one of the things that I will definitely say can work for you is if you really like the client, if you really like the project, if you really think that it's going to potentially propel you into the future, one of the things that I think that you could start to do is just consider what it would be like within a 25% margin. So here's how I would execute up on this one. As you start to go up in pricing, by the way, every single artwork that you do for a client, you should price up about 10%, and this will account for this anyways. It's a nice buffer. So for example here, if you want to get $200 for an artwork and an art client says no, you could positively spin this around and say something to the effect of like, okay, look, I really love to work with you. I love your project. I think we would have so much fun together. Instead of 200, could you do 175? Hey, could you do 150 for that? Or let's say that you're all the way up to like $500 and then somebody says, that's a little out of my budget. Sorry. You could say, well, look, I think that this would be a really dope artwork. I have such a great vision of it. I would love to create this for you. Could you do it for 400? If you can put this within a reasonable margin, and if you're confused on like how I just told you to stand firm, but now I'm saying like, well, within 25%, it's because you have to enter a respectable price bracket where it's actually reasonable for you to take a little loss for a bigger gain. So for example, on the $500 one, this is a time where I would be like, do I want to lose $100 or do I want to lose $400 hypothetically? And if I'm okay with that 100 and keeping 400, I might be okay with that. But it also depends on this too. If you have a lot of art client requests, if you have a lot of demand for your product right now, then don't do this, okay? Because in that scenario, somebody else will come around and will pay you top dollar for it. So don't degrade yourself with it. But if you're not in that circumstance, then yes, it's perfectly okay for you to do that. Go ahead and try that out. Now, one of the reasons too why your art clients might be saying no is that you might be using really bad practices. And you probably haven't heard a lot of them, But trust me, I have. And that's exactly why I'm gonna ask you to hit that like and subscribe so that you see more content like this every single week, like I push out, because I am so invested in helping you to be a successful artist, to be a successful art entrepreneur. And I am gonna share everything with you, no holds barred. And if you're down for that and this is helping you, please make sure that you share this with somebody that you know too. And hey, look, maybe you've been trying this for a while and you know this stuff already, but you just can't implement it. And that's where my one-on-one art mentorship comes into play. Listen, this is not a course, it's not a class, it's me and you working one-on-one to accomplish the things that you want to do at the pace you want to do it. I've helped people just like you totally supercharge their art business and be able to achieve everything that they didn't think they'd be able to do for years in a matter of months. And if that sounds like you, then go ahead and check out the link in my description, fill out the form, and I'll reach out to you soon. And now y'all can start to know and do this too. Now, once you get enough no's, this is when you're gonna feel like crap. And this is gonna probably be at the point where you feel like you might be you're not worth it, you didn't have access to this person, to this tutelage, to that program, to that money, so on and so forth, right? But one of the things that I wanna let you know is that I would say most freelancing artists are completely unrealistic in their expectations for what should happen and how many no's they should get. And one of the things I want to let you know, and I'm going to expound on this in a later point, is that you need to actually get a no to make space for the art clients that you deserve. I'm going to give you this example to prove this to you. So there was one point in my career where I literally had no clients for an entire month. And I put up a post on Reddit and I had somebody contact me within the first few hours of it. And we had a great conversation. They were really into it. They loved my artwork. And I hit them with my price tag. I got a no. I went through everything that I've suggested for you. I've adjusted the scope, adjusted the pricing, asked for a deposit. No, is all I got from that. And then finally I asked them, and I said, okay, well, just out of curiosity, like, what would you say is your comfortable budget? And they said $50. And I mulled that over for a hot second. I was like, oh, I could use $50. I mean, I guess that wouldn't be bad. It was a really big project, by the way. It was like 3 characters in the background. I told them like, hey, look, I put a lot of time, energy, and effort into building what I have right now and my skills. I'm sorry, that's just not something that I can work with you on. But hey, if you can make that work in the near future, come right back to me, be happy to work with you. And I let that go, and then I told my wife about it, and my wife was like, Sean, that was kind of dumb. Like, why'd you do that? Wouldn't that be great for you to have $50 at least? Like, that would be kind of fun. We'd go do something with it. And then I felt bad about it. I was like, oh my God, maybe that was a bad idea. That was really stupid of me. And I started to feel bad, even though I knew that I was worth more, that I've gotten more. And so what I did was I got kind of caught up in this negative spiral, and I reached out to the client and I said like, hey, look, I reconsidered and I would love to work with you. And then by that time it was like super late at night. So I went to bed feeling pretty crappy about it. I woke up to another client who literally an hour into a conversation of just a few DMs back and forth throughout the course of an hour, got $350. So I literally saw that as a sign that this is the right path. And just to put this into perspective, if I had said yes to the $50 client, I probably would feel like crap the entire time I was working on it. In fact, I know I would, because I would feel so degraded working on something that was so complex for so little money. And you know that feeling, don't you, friend, of you having to toil and slave away at something in which case you know that you're not getting paid enough, that you're worth more, that you put decades perhaps into learning your craft just to get paid less than a McDonald's employee. And that's why I want to urge you to consider the fact that you taking a no is you saying yes to somebody else in the future. This is just like you saying no to dating somebody who's really bad and toxic for you to say yes to somebody else who is going to be great and help you grow. It's the same thing with your art business, y'all. You gotta make space for the right clients, or the wrong clients are going to invade and they're going to totally decimate you in your passion to draw in the first place. Have you ever considered this? Now, when you combine a few of these, we get and establish what is called the anchoring effect. And just to give you this as an example, so let's say that you go to a car dealership and you've got 3 models in mind. Well, the salesman's going to bring out the first one, which is typically going to be always the most expensive. And then they're going to bring out a middle one that is of middle value. And then they're going to bring out the third one, which will be of the lowest price point. And what they're trying to do here is fish for your reaction. There are some people that will just go ahead and buy the first one because they love it, okay? And they're going to make an emotional reaction. There are some people that are only going to choose the lowest option because they are just really stingy or they're somebody who's really economically driven. And then the middle tier is going to be for people that are both economically and passion driven, okay? Anchoring effect basically works like this. You are going to show them when you're putting out your prices for your art too, and you're conversing with your clients about their scope and their project and their price point, is you want to hit them with the highest price tag, highest value version first. Then you're going to move to a slightly lower version of it where it's less of a scope and less pricing. And then your lowest tier price is where you're gonna give them the least amount of work. In a freelancing sense, this would be like if you did like a bust or a portrait, and you're gonna hit them with what would be your lowest price point. By doing this, then you might not get them to buy at the highest, you might not get them to buy at the mid, but you might get them to buy at the lowest. So if you present them with options, again, starting with the highest one, and this can even be a greater amount of tiers where like it's not just gonna be the full body character my highest, it's gonna be a double character artwork with like a full illustrated background. Okay, let's take away one character. Let's make it one character, no background. Let's make it a half body character. Let's make it a bust. If you do this, then you're giving them more options. You're making them feel like they are actually able to make an informed and secure decision with you. And you're giving them the option and the security of letting them make the best decision for however they are trained, conditioned, and driven interiorly. This is an excellent sales tactic. And now that you know this, you can understand why this is something that you can start to do when you converse with your own clients. Try it out. Now, sometimes, listen, you can go through all of this and you might still get that no, or you might tell them like, okay, well, that's great, but it's gonna be a few months. All right, so now this is typically when you start to feel really bad, you feel dejected, or maybe you just feel like you're worthless, right? Well, one of the things that I do, and I do this with all parts of all of my businesses here, is that if somebody says it's gonna take a while, I'll ask them, hey, can I follow up with you? Hey, is it okay if I check in with you next month? Hey, is it all right if I follow up with you in a few months? And I find this to be a really powerful process because this shows your investment level. It shows that you care too. So one of the things that I have done in the past, and I continue to do even to this day, is if somebody says that they need more time or they want to get back to me in a few months, or hey, it's going to be like 6 months from now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down their name in a notebook, or I'm going to write it down on a spreadsheet that I have online. And I'm gonna put exactly when I'm gonna follow up with them. And then from doing that, I can and I will make it a point to actually follow up with them. And I'm gonna tell you why art clients like this, because it helps keep you top of their mind, and it helps to show that you're really invested, that you're passionate about what you're doing, and that you're willing to work with them. And listen, I've had this work in the reverse way too, where I totally forget about a client and then they follow up with me. Sometimes that will happen too. Like I've literally had it be like a year in between when I talk to a client and when they actually commit to me. So for example, you can reach out to them, and the first thing I would do is I wouldn't just plow right into the conversation about you potentially getting money from them. I'd be like, hey, what's up? How's it going? How's it been? And then give them some type of human response back about what's going on or what's good, what's great in their life and everything. And they might be like, oh, it's all good. How are you? And you tell them, like, oh yeah, I'm busier than ever. Then you can hit them with something to the effect of like, hey, I remember we had a great conversation about that project a few months ago, and I promised you I would follow up with you. So just wanted to do that. And I was just kind of curious, like, are you interested in getting any artwork done? Because I would love to work with you. And they might say yes, they might say no. Then you can start to do one of the other things I've taught you about in this video too. But just you being a human being, just you following up on their well-being, just you checking in with them can really help propel you to actually landing that sale and landing that client. Try it out. Now, for some of you, you might have been going at this for a little bit, and I'm gonna bring up a point in a minute here about maybe that's why you're not getting what you want. But for now, I just want you to consider this. What do you do when somebody says no to you? What do you do when a potential art client won't buy from you and it happens more than once? Just give up? Do you just feel like there's no point in making artwork anymore? Do you just full stop? You won't create anything? Do you feel like you're just not motivated to create art at all just because somebody's not paying you? Well, my friend, I want to just let you in on this fact. That's the worst reason for you to make art. If you're making art just to get paid for it, I'm gonna be real with you, there's way better things you can do to make a buck in this lifetime. But if you're not getting the art clients, one of the things I need to encourage you to do is to keep practicing, and for you to keep growing your skills, and for you to keep challenging yourself. Because listen, if you go like 6 months with the same dang artwork, maybe you add just like 1 or 2 into it, that's probably why you're not getting more art clients. That's definitely why you're not getting more success. And that's definitely why you're never going to change your life. Because if you're waiting for a client to provide you with that opportunity to improve your craft, to draw, to challenge yourself, then that's definitely going to lead you to oblivion, artistically speaking here, because you're waiting for some external circumstance to come and bring you happiness, and that's why you're not going to get it, friend. So keep practicing, keep polishing your skills, keep making examples, make different examples, increase your dynamics, increase your professionalism, seek out more resources. If you are consistently applying better practices, if you keep practicing and you keep evolving yourself, you are going to also therefore evolve your opportunities in life as well. Y'all, I'm not a big spiritual person, but I will 100% support this philosophy, is that your energy and your ability to bring forth the momentum for success is going to be what will propel you to eventually get there over time. Conversely, if you are just literally going to sit and stagnate and wait around for something to happen, well, that's why it's not going to happen for you, friend, okay? And I say all this with love and honesty because I've been there, I felt that too. I had times in my life where I didn't create anything unless I was getting paid for it, and it made me feel like crap. So the only way you're going to make yourself unfeel like crap is for you to actually get yourself out there and to push yourself even when nobody is paying you for it. Can you do that? Now, a big topic I don't want to elude you on is the topic of time. And let me just ask you this. How long have you been going through this process? How long have you been looking for clients? How long have you been scouring the internet? How long have you been using that one platform or those 2 platforms? Or how long has it been since you ever even changed up your practices? Have you ever considered that too? Because I want to give you right now a really hard metric that nobody else will tell you, but I'm going to powerfully assert to you with complete honesty how long you should wait to actually even feel any semblance of success or failure. And it's this: if you are consistently doing everything that I am advising you on and have advised you on my channel, if you have good practices, you have good communication, you're constantly evolving your artwork, you're pushing yourself, you're challenging yourself, you're making diverse examples, you're growing and building your portfolio, you cannot make any type of actual measurement of your success or lack thereof without 6 to 12 months of committed effort. That's right, I didn't stutter on that. That's half a year to a year on you actually being able to sit there and go, am I doing this right? And the thing that I want to just let you know is that it takes time. It took me 6 months to get my first client when I was first starting this out 10 years ago, okay? And I didn't know everything I know right now. And I'm very confident that if I knew what I knew right now back then, I would have got my first few clients within that first month. But I didn't know that because there were no channels like mine out there that actually taught people how to do this. And they used to just go ahead and say the same dang crap all the time. They would be like, you need to get social media, you need to grow a following. And that never worked for me, and it doesn't work for most artists either, and that's why I don't support that. So one of the things that I'm gonna recommend is that if you're feeling bad, take a look at, first off, how long have you been at this? Number 2, what have your practices been? How many new things have you been trying within that time period? And number 3, what have you been doing with your artwork? Are you still making the same artwork of the same type of characters with the same pose and the same exact dynamics, and then you're expecting less than the same results? You see where we're going with this? You have to push yourself throughout time and for a committed amount of time in order to assess if that time is being well invested. Here's another thing too. How committed are you during that time frame? Are you like looking for our clients just when you feel like it? Or are you looking for it every week? Are you looking for it every day? Are you constantly looking for new platforms? Are you constantly trying to figure out where new people could be? Are you constantly talking to other artists too? Because the more consistent that you are in your efforts, the more your time investment is going to pay off. Now, big time need to challenge this idea because you've probably seen artists out there that charge dirt cheap pricing, like way below what you're asking, right? And then you've seen them have massively filled commission queues, right? You've seen them with just 20 clients maybe, right? And you're looking at them and you're looking at you and you're like, oh, man, that's gotta be the way. That's the way I have to do it. If I don't compete with them, then I'm never gonna get anything. If I don't sell my artwork for $25, well, who's gonna buy it? And if I am not seeking to just cut and scrape every single dollar away from me so that I get this big, massive queue, then I'm never gonna make it, right? Well, I need to let you know this and hit you with this reality. That is the dumbest, most degrading practice that you can possibly have. And I've seen so many artists sit here and really try and champion this idea, and instead, you need to consider this. You should stop going for more and more and more clients. What I would instead encourage you to do is to go for less and less and less clients. Let me just tell you this. Over time, I've never sought to have like 20 plus clients, 10 clients, even 5 clients at a time. I've done that. It's very stressful. And the way that I always ask myself, as soon as I start to hit a point where I'm like, this starts to feel like too much for me, is instead I ask this. I ask myself, what can I do instead so that I can handle less clients and get paid more money from them, okay? Because listen, if you can start to master that mindset and you start to open up that thought process in your brain of like, well, what do I need to do and where do I need to go and what do I need to improve or whose feedback do I need or like, do I need to buy this course? Do I need to get into this mentorship program in order to actually get to where I want to go? Then you're also going to invite the possibility that that will happen. You're going to open up that avenue for it. And this has been a major game-changing mindset for me over my years that's allowed me to grow my business and allow me to grow my practices to what I currently have. And it can work the same for you too. I've even had people in my comments like brag that they do 50 clients a month. And I was like, 50 clients? That's nothing to brag about. You should feel bad about that because I guarantee you, you are making dirt cheap artwork. It's not finished, it's not polished, it's not portfolio ready, and it's not that impressive. Instead, what you should aim to do is do only the best version. Cut your sketches, cut your whips, cut your black and white versions that no one's buying or they're buying for dirt cheap. Only make artwork that will attract higher paying clients. And this is one of the biggest problems I see a lot of artists do is that they're gonna try and get like sketches or a sketchy version or a half render version or a black and white version. Cut it all. Those are the worst, lowest quality artworks that you're ever going to do. And unless you're willing to charge $100 for that and you can actually get it, don't do it. It's a waste of your time. Instead, only do artwork that will attract the highest paying clients that will actually propel you to the future. Because if not, you're gonna just completely decimate yourself with work that sucks, you hate, and it's gonna make you feel like crap to the point where I know how this is gonna go because I've seen it for years, I've seen this for a decade. You will crash and burn out. Do you really want that? Now, I don't want this to seem like I'm being ambiguous as far as like, well, how do you increase your pricing or like, what should I focus on or what's missing from my portfolio? Because at this point, you're probably thinking that, right? And you're wondering like, well, that's great for you, Sean, but how do I do it for me? And let me just tell you that I literally have done this exact thing I'm about to tell you about. And I've gotten my artwork from being priced at only $35 to upwards of $1,500. And to make this really clear for you, I made an entire video for you right here where you can learn all about how to increase your art pricing. Go ahead, check it out. And if this helped you, share it with somebody that you know. See you next time.